Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're tackling something huge, vendor negotiations. But forget the old boardroom battles. We're swapping out those stacks of paper and, gut feelings for pure operationalized artificial intelligence. This is our deep dive into how procurement, that often slow, methodical part of business, is getting a serious upgrade, a supercharged co-pilot, if you will. Our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to give you the operational blueprint. We're going beyond just the buzzwords. We want you to understand exactly how AI doesn't just aim to cut costs, but actually provides a shortcut to closing better deals faster, and importantly, boosting the security and compliance around these really sensitive transactions.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating, I think, is the specific tool set that's being rolled out. We're not talking about, just running fancier reports in Excel. This is core AI infrastructure. First, you've got managed control points, MCPs, for incredibly detailed analysis and setting boundaries. And second, there are these generative AI copilots. These operate dynamically, providing real-time strategic help during the actual negotiation, the back and forth.
Right. So this isn't just a small tweak. It feels fundamentally innovative. It sounds like it's reshaping those B2B vendor relationships and really enhancing every single decision point in procurement, moving it away from maybe an art of persuasion more towards a science of data strategy.
Exactly. It's a strategic shift.
So let's start right at the beginning then. Before any negotiator even joins the conversation, the AI is doing foundational work. You mentioned massive scale contract analysis using those MCPs. What are those managed control points actually doing during that phase?
Okay, so think of the MCPs as setting the intelligent guardrails for the whole process. The AI uses these points to meticulously, and I mean meticulously, analyze every clause, every term, every liability within a contract. This goes way beyond just simple keyword searching. The AI is designed to actually read and understand the entire document. It can instantly pinpoint key leverage points that might be, buried deep in boilerplate language, or maybe a clause added years ago that everyone's forgotten about.
Ah, okay. Finding the hidden stuff.
Exactly. And crucially, this MCP analysis digs into historical pricing trends. It's not just showing what you paid last time. No, it compares your proposed contract against thousands, potentially tens of thousands of other anonymized contracts across the market. It spots anomalies or maybe historical overpayments with really remarkable accuracy. This makes sure procurement teams walk in armed with solid data. They're operating purely on data-driven decisions, removing that uncertainty about fair market value.
That makes total sense for the prep phase, the static analysis. The MCPs give you the perfect map of the terrain, so to speak. But the second the negotiation actually starts, that map changes, right? Because the vendor introduces unknowns, counter offers, maybe shifts their demands. And that's where we shift to the dynamic part, the generative copilots.
Precisely. And this, I think, is the truly game-changing piece. The copilots aren't just passive document readers. They are active participants. They're powered by these sophisticated generative models that create customized negotiation strategies, even scripts, adapting to what the vendor does or says in real time.
Okay, I want to focus on that real-time adaptation. When you say the copilot analyzes the vendor's tone, that sounds almost sci-fi. What does that really mean in practice? Is the AI trying to read emotions?
No, it's much more clinical than reading emotion, which is frankly pretty unreliable. The AI is identifying specific linguistic flags. It's looking for shifts in language complexity, maybe the introduction of unexpected variables or a sudden change from very assertive demands to more concessionary phrasing.
Okay, so patterns in the language itself.
Exactly. For instance, if a vendor suddenly brings up a new logistical constraint out of the blue, the copilot might recognize this not just as a problem, but as a potential softening point. And it could suggest a counter tactic, maybe accept the logistical change, but use that moment to push harder for a bigger volume discount.
Ah, I see. So the copilot acts like a tactical advisor right there in the moment. It synthesizes these linguistic shifts and suggests an immediate move. It's almost like having a chess grandmaster whispering in your ear, correcting your strategy before you even make a bad move.
That's a great analogy, yes. It allows for a much smoother, faster process overall. It helps ensure you stay focused on extracting maximum value while still maintaining the kind of professionalism you need for a long-term B2B partnership. It helps prevent the human negotiator from getting blindsided or, dragged down into those unproductive back-and-forth loops.
Understanding the vendor's strategy in real time is definitely key, but strategy only works if the numbers add up. Let's pivot now to the tangible results. Yeah. How quickly and accurately does the AI lock in the best possible pricing? We're talking pricing predictions and just pure time savings here.
Yeah, the prediction capability has seen some incredible leaps, especially recently. The models are often trained using really sophisticated frameworks, sometimes open source ones like Hugging Face. These frameworks are particularly good at processing the vast amounts of unstructured text you find in B2B deals. Thousands of old contracts, chat logs, email threads, stuff like that.
Right, the messy data.
Exactly, the messy data that traditional structured models just couldn't handle effectively. This allows the AI to synthesize market sentiment and historical buying patterns in ways that just weren't possible before. The AI's goal here is to predict the most favorable pricing structure. It considers market trends, supplier capacity, your specific volume needs, all of it. This ability drastically cuts down the time spent on internal forecasting and that endless haggling. It essentially tells you what the optimal price should be instead of you having to guess.
And when we look at the outcomes, the efficiency payoff seems immediate. You're getting better prices without that drawn-out negotiation dance, which means cutting the whole negotiation cycle time. You mentioned potentially by as much as 25%. That's a significant chunk of time saved.
It really is. That time saving translates directly into operational efficiency.
Okay, but I have to ask the critical question about the bottom line. You hinted at a pretty staggering figure earlier. A recent survey found 30% of procurement teams using these AI tools reported really substantial cost savings, like 15 to 20% on average. Now, does that figure account for the cost of implementing and training these complex AI systems? Or is that purely the saving on the deal itself?
That's a great question. That 15 to 20% is generally reported as a purely transactional saving on the cost of the goods and services being bought. The return on investment for the implementation, which comes from those speed and accuracy gains we talked about, tends to be very fast, almost immediate in many cases. This helps justify the initial setup cost.
Right.
So when you combine reducing negotiation time by, say, 25%, plus achieving a guaranteed 15% or more lower spend, well, the ROI calculation becomes very favorable very quickly. It drops straight to the bottom line, boosting profitability.
That definitely puts the number in perspective. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to a concern that has to be top of mind for any business dealing with its own sensitive information. Security and compliance. We're feeding these AI systems highly sensitive data pricing secrets, internal strategies, maybe even known vendor vulnerabilities. How is all this proprietary information actually kept safe?
Yeah, this is absolutely critical. It has to be a core design requirement from day one. We're moving way beyond just basic security protocols here. It's not just about standard encryption, though that's part of it. The real challenge is handling the highly sensitive proprietary knowledge used to train the AI without ever exposing it. To do that, we rely heavily on specialized architectural models, often using concepts like federated learning and secure data enclaves.
Secure data enclaves. Okay, can you unpack that a bit for us? What does that mean?
Sure. So with federated learning, the basic idea is that your proprietary training data never leaves your company's secure perimeter. It stays put. Instead, the AI model essentially goes to the data, learns from it locally, and then only the generalized learnings, the algorithm updates, the patterns are shared back, not the raw, sensitive data itself.
Ah, okay. The model travels, not the data.
Exactly. And the enclaves use encrypted virtual private networks, VPNs, but not just for basic communication. They create a secure, isolated computational environment. This makes the data practically inaccessible to any external actors, sometimes even the AI model developers themselves, throughout the entire negotiation lifecycle. It's locked down.
And what about for global companies? Regulatory compliance is always the big elephant in the room. If you're dealing with international partners, how do these solutions handle the really strict requirements of things like GDPR in Europe or other regional data sovereignty laws?
Compliance has to be baked into the architecture from the start. These systems are designed with global data governance frameworks in mind. Because they use these secure enclaves and techniques like robust data mapping, the AI can ensure that sensitive personal data, or any data subject to GDPR, for example, is processed and stored only where it's legally allowed.
So it respects geographic boundaries for data.
Precisely. It's all about guaranteeing that the protection framework is active and, crucially, verifiable from the moment data comes in right through to the final contract signature. And, we're also seeing a really interesting market shift happening because of this tech. When one side, typically the procurement team, comes to the table armed with perfect data and objective analysis from the AI, well, it encourages the vendors to adopt more transparent pricing models themselves.
Really, so it forces their hand a bit.
In a way, yes. The days of those deliberately obscure pricing tiers and overly complex contracts are starting to fade. It shifts the traditional B2B dynamic. It helps foster genuine trust, but trust built on quantifiable metrics and data rather than just, relationship management and lunches.
Okay, so if the present state is already this optimized, this data-driven, we have to look ahead. What's the next major evolution for AI in vendor negotiations? How does this get even more sophisticated?
Well, we're seeing a significant push towards deeper integration with distributed ledger technology, blockchain. Future sophistication definitely involves linking these AI negotiation platforms with blockchain. And this isn't just about adding another layer of security during the talk, it's more about enhancing contract verification after the deal is done.
How does blockchain improve the contract process beyond the security protocols, the VPNs and enclaves we just discussed?
It creates an immutable, completely verifiable, tamper-proof audit trail for the agreement. Think about complex, multi-party supply chain deals. A smart contract deployed on a blockchain can guarantee that every single agreed-upon metric delivery times, quality checks, payment milestones is logged irreversibly and transparently to all permitted parties.
So the AI negotiates the terms,
Right?
and the blockchain essentially locks down the integrity of those terms automatically,
Yeah.
providing seamless compliance tracking.
Exactly. Seamless compliance and transparency, especially critical across global partners where trust can be harder to establish.
And speaking of global partners, what about pure scalability?
Yeah.
If a company in, say, Europe is negotiating with a supplier over in Asia, how does the system ensure that same high level of security and efficiency across those huge distances?
The plan for true global scalability really hinges on building out expanded, interconnected VPN networks. These maintain that secure enclave architecture consistently across continents. The goal is to ensure uniform security standards and performance regardless of where the negotiators are physically located or where the data centers happen to be. And make no mistake, the companies embracing these advanced tools right now are doing more than just improving their negotiation capabilities. They are actively securing a significant, probably durable, competitive edge in what's becoming an increasingly data-driven global marketplace. They're essentially setting the new standard, moving into a leadership position rather than just reacting.
Wow. Okay, so let's quickly recap the operational revolution we've just walked through. AI is fundamentally streamlining procurement. It's achieving verified, pretty massive cost savings. You said 50 to 20% transactional reduction is common. And it's profoundly enhancing everything from the initial contract analysis using those MCPs to providing real-time strategic guidance with generative copilots during the negotiation itself, all while maintaining really robust, high-level security and compliance.
It absolutely is the new standard or quickly becoming it. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. If AI can demonstrably cut negotiation cycles by 25% and consistently drive those substantial 15–20% savings,
Mhm.
what fundamental part of the traditional human element in B2B bargaining, that old art of the deal, do you think will become obsolete first? What's really fascinating here, I believe, is how rapidly the very definition of expertise is shifting in the procurement field. It's moving fast from being an expert haggler or relationship builder to being an expert in strategic data deployment and maybe algorithmic oversight, a different kind of expertise altogether.
A really provocative question to think about. Something to definitely mull over as you look at optimizing your own systems and figuring out where best to position your human expertise going forward. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the future of business procurement.